I've had it for today. It's starting to hurt really bad, so I'm gonna go home and sit. Lay it down, it's fine.
Astronomers seem to have revealed a puzzling detail in the way dark matter behaves. They found small, dense concentrations of dark matter that bend and magnify light much more strongly than expected. Dark matter is a mysterious, invisible substance that makes up the bulk of a galaxy. The gravitational pull exerted by dark matter is thought to tie galaxies together throughout the universe. There is so much regular matter and dark matter concentrated in massive galaxy clusters that their gravity magnifies and warps light from distant background objects. We call this effect gravitational lensing. We can map where the dark matter is in galaxy clusters by observing how the light bends. Gravitational lensing distorts the appearance of background galaxies into deformed shapes and elongated arcs. Pictures of lensing galaxy clusters are filled with the smeared images of remote background galaxies. The higher the concentration of dark matter in a galaxy cluster, the more dramatic its light-bending power is. Smaller clumps of dark matter associated with individual galaxies in the galaxy cluster create more distortions. In some sense, the galaxy cluster acts as a large lens that has many smaller lenses embedded inside of it. But strangely, astronomers found that 3 galaxy clusters used in their study had concentrations of dark matter that are so massive that the lensing effects they produce are 10 times stronger than originally expected. Hubble's crisp images, coupled with observations from the Very Large Telescope in Chile, helped astronomers produce a more accurate dark matter map. By measuring the lensing distortions, astronomers could trace out the amount and distribution of dark matter. This recent study could signal a gap in our current understanding of the nature of dark matter and its properties. It shows us that there's clearly a missing feature of the real universe that we simply are not capturing in our current theoretical models. With studies like this, astronomers look forward to continuing to pin down the intriguing nature of dark matter to better understand the secrets of our mysterious universe.
Well, hello everybody. It's Scott Roberts and Jerry Hubble here, and welcome to Monday. This is our 68th episode of the Explorer Alliance Live with the OpenGOTO Community, and we had a good weekend, I think. You know, I certainly had a restful one. A lot of fun on Friday, with our star party. And we've got, of course... that
was a long one.
It was a long one. It's like 5 hours or something.
Yeah, it was, like a real one.
Right. It was like being at a real star party. That's
you show up and then just goes on, and stragglers that hang out at the end.
Right. That's right. So anyways, let's recognize some of the people that are attending today. We have James, the astrophotographer. You guys probably, the regulars here, know Ansel Puri. He was telling me, he called me today and told me how much he's kind of going through withdrawals because he landed a new job, and so he has to work during this time. So, but we got Astra Beard, Richard Grace. He says hello. Jeff Wise, Paul Maesters, Dusty Haskins, Chalkstaw, Michael Whitaker, and who else? Chuck Lewis, he's with us. Oh, he had a busy weekend. Yeah. Bergman Scooter, good afternoon from the Gulf Coast. Tyler Bowman, working here. David Ing, Mike Wiesner is following us. Mike, thanks a lot for giving me an introduction to someone to speak with us. Hopefully she does that. That would be very cool. Norm Hughes says he loved the introduction. Thanks, Norm. Well, that was an impressive intro. Really? What did we do different?
I guess
we always...
I guess people like the NASA videos.
Yeah, I do. I really do. And they put them out there so that people can watch them and share them for educational purposes and stuff. So, pronunciation of my name was excellent. Thank you, Paul. And Wade Prunty says, "What's up, folks?" So, as you might have seen, I had a presentation I promised that I would do. And so over the weekend, in my spare time, I put together a PowerPoint presentation on... Not really. Not really.
Like all of us, right?
But I did put together this presentation on drift alignment. When I first started getting into doing drift alignments, I was tasked to do to write Lead Instruments' first ever LX200, and I'm talking about the old LX200 Classic instruction manual. It was a 100-page instruction manual on every aspect of the LX200. And part of that was precise polar alignment. And so if for any of you guys out there that had Meade LX200s and did precise polar alignment, you were following my instructions. So, but
I had an LX5
did you really?
from 1987. I didn't even have a 200, although we had one at the observatory. I didn't get a chance to see your manual.
No? Oh, okay. Well, when I started working at Meade, they were just, the LX3 was a relatively brand new product, okay? They had the LX, the LX2, LX3. There was actually an LX4 made, but never made it to market. Then there was the LX5, LX6, and then a Premier series, which is basically LX6 technology. And then coming off of that, we went to LX200, which was a big, huge success for Meade Instruments.
Yeah.
Yep. So it was very cool. Jim Norwood says some pretty gal was swiping a virtual screen with OpenGOTO logo. That's new, wasn't it? Yes, it was.
Maybe that's the intro they're talking about.
Down, you make it sound like she was cleaning it or something. It was,
Maybe that,
the Matrix or something, or Minority Report. That's right.
Minority Report. Yeah, she's
Behind.
going to report us all.
That's right. So
Maybe that's the intro they were talking about.
maybe, could be a little bit something different. I do like drones, though. I have a drone, So anyhow, I guess I should probably get into my presentation, but just I wanted to kind of cover what we're going to cover today. We have, let's see, and I don't see why I don't see all the rest of this, but we're going to cover the fact that today's John Dobson's birthday. Hooray! He's a guy who was an inspiration to me, was a friend, and someone that had a big impact on my life, not only from getting to know this really nice man, but the fact that my first serious telescope was a Dobsonian, So I had a Coulter Optics 13.1 inch Odyssey Dob, and it was great. I had a lot of fun with it, did a ton of outreach with it, did the International Halley Watch Pro-Am project with it, and
That was a huge scope back then.
it really was. Not a lot of people had that large of aperture, so it was fun to take to star parties. I saw, I was able to really get into looking at the Virgo cluster, faint, weird galaxy clusters like Stephan's Quintet. In early or mid 85, I was amongst maybe it was early 85, but I was amongst the first 100 people that saw Halley's Comet visually on its inbound. So that was kind of cool. Or 100 people that was reported anyway. So, what else? We're going to talk a bit about. You wanted to talk about Windows Network.
Yeah, there's some problems that have cropped up recently. A few people have encountered it, 2 or 3 people on the forum talking about not being able to connect to the PMC8, and it's a network issue that Wes and I worked on earlier today, and we've developed a workaround for it. But I'll get into the details and exactly what the issue is here in a little bit.
Okay. All right, and then there's that little news item today that was released about Venus having phosphine detected in its atmosphere, which is a really tantalizing discovery because here on Earth, phosphine is only either created industrially, okay, or by microbial, or by I guess it's microbial life that creates phosphine. So there's some thinking that maybe there's microbial life in the atmosphere of Venus. So that would be a huge game changer if that's in fact true.
That might be someplace that we go to on a manned mission.
Maybe. Could be. At least
Pretty wild to be like the 1950s.
sample the atmosphere, maybe
Yeah.
swoop down and get a bunch of the atmosphere and read it out spectrally or whatever. But that would be very, very exciting. I think that if they find life there, that it probably did not. I mean, this is just my thinking, but I don't think that it would have been life that would have started on Earth, because if you had an asteroid hit on Earth, I think that most of the blowback out into space would actually be pushed out by solar wind. So is it possible if we find life on Mars, did it come from Earth? Yeah, that's kind of possible. But going to Venus, maybe not. So that would be a huge game changer in a lot of people's thinking, if in fact that's the case. And it would be totally cool if they discovered life on Venus before they discovered life on Mars after all this effort, so.
Right. It took 10 years and we figured it out already on Venus.
Yeah. I don't know.
Well, it'd be like the 1950s when they had all these B movies where people went to Venus. They had aliens on Venus and stuff back in the 40s and 50s.
Yep. It was cool to go to Venus. And then we found out it was hot. So there you go. So anyhow, I promised I would do a presentation on precision polar alignment using the drift method. So as I mentioned, I put together a presentation, and I'll go through that with you. Let me move this out of the way, and I'll pin that video, and then I'll come over here and share my screen. You see that okay, Jerry?
Yeah, I can see that in place of your picture.
Okay.
It looks good on the YouTube.
Speaker, we're on speaker. Let's see. And maybe that's okay. We can do that. No problem. You speak up, and then we can.
You want to show your face instead of mine?
No, yours is good enough. So, my face is the face of polar alignment. Okay, so
Okay.
anyhow, after I do this presentation a couple of times, I think that I'll be able to even further refine this. But let's get into it. I found that, anytime I start to do a presentation, I always want to kind of look at the history of things and know when things first got started. And I could not yet find real clear historical information of who came up with the idea of an equatorial mounting. Okay, it probably goes back before telescopes. With transit tools and stuff like that astronomers would use to create star maps. But certainly from the beginning of optical telescopes coming onto the scene, telescopes were being mounted on equatorial platforms. This one is from Ole Christensen Romer, and it was from 1690. I thought it was a beautiful looking equatorial platform. It's got this little, looks like a refractor on it, and he's got like this semicircle of what I think is like benches to sit down on. As you look through, you tilt the telescope at different angles. Maybe this allowed him to sit down at different positions and observe through his telescope in a comfortable way. But in order equatorial mounts to properly function, they of course require polar alignment. And so, we have already talked about different methods of polar alignment. I've showed you how a couple of polar borescopes work. And we've talked about daytime alignment and stuff, which I'll do another presentation of. But drift alignment is something that a lot of people who are astrophotographers want to learn. The reason for that is that it has several advantages, which I'll go through. But drift alignment is maybe perhaps the most precision kind of alignment you can do, except for photographic. You can do photographic alignment and actually make it better, but that takes even more time than this takes. When you first start learning how to do polar or drift alignments, I'm gonna recommend that you set aside an hour to an hour and a half to go through the process. And what will happen as you get more familiar with it, you're going to be able to go through it faster, and there's ways to go even, so you might be able to break down an hour and a half and down to 30 minutes or 45 minutes to do a polar alignment in drift method. And with some other tips, you could probably go faster than that. You might get it down to like 10 or 15 minutes, so which is pretty painless. So. If you are not going to, a point I make in the presentation, if you're not going to be doing long exposure astrophotography, you're shooting like 2-minute subs or less, then I would say don't go through the hassle of drift alignment unless you just want to know how to do it. It's not going to be a big benefit for you if you're just doing casual observing or short exposures. So, and after talking to Gary Palmer, drift alignment and the time that it takes might be a hindrance because they shoot in between clouds a lot, and so that is a a situation where you have to be out there, you need to get set up quick, you need to grab your images quickly, and it's all about getting data as fast as possible. So, sticking with shorter exposures is going to help that way. But if you are making longer than 2-minute exposures, then, the fewer tracking corrections that you have to deal with, the better. That's always good news. And if you've made a good precision polar alignment, you're not going to have very many declination corrections. In fact, probably none. If you're exactly polar aligned. But a lot
That's
about
one of the things I would suggest is if you're if you're gonna do a precise alignment like this, then I would suggest that you do not guide on declination at all, because it just hinders you.
right. Got some questions here already. This method is good when you have a backyard and some days of good weather that you can let your mount stay outside. So spending time like this spend time for drift alignment. Paul Meister says, Scott, isn't auto-guiding compensating for drift? To a degree, yes, but you don't want to do, if you're going to do long exposures, you still don't want to have really poor polar alignment, because over a long term, even if you're tracking and stacking, you will start to have some field rotation. Okay, you may not see it in stretched stars, but you will see it in the edges of your frame will start to get eaten up as you're tracking and stacking. Okay, so that's that deal. Michael Whitaker says, fixed my polar alignment last night, best ever. Everything slewed perfectly and central. Even M57 was bang in the middle of the field of view. Still getting elongated stars in the center field. Can't explain.
There are other things that cause elongated stars that I typically don't bring up immediately, but sometimes if you've got high clouds and you don't see them,
Yeah,
it'll smear the stars, and you'll think it's the mountain, but it's actually the high clouds.
I see. Oh, I see. Because optically it's smearing them, I guess.
Right.
And they can be really thin clouds. That's
Yeah,
true.
it can be thin, something you can't even detect really sometimes.
Brett Blake says collimation, question mark. Brett, it wouldn't just be in the center of the field of view that it would be a problem. When you're out of collimation, stars are smeared all over the frame. So that's, it's not going to be like in a little area. It could be, if you're out of collimation, could be one side, I guess, more than another. But generally speaking, you see it messed up everywhere. So let's go to, are there alternatives to drift alignment? Sure, there are alternatives to drift alignment when it comes to making a precise polar alignment. One of them, we've talked about it a lot on the show, is the QHY's PoleMaster. And I think there's another company making something like the PoleMaster as well. PoleMaster takes an image of the pole, it attaches to what is essentially the polar axis of your mount. And then there's software that shows you how to make the adjustment to get the correct offset for the stars so that you have a precise polar alignment. It's quick, it's great, costs a little bit of money. It's not terribly expensive, but a little bit of money. Another way is that is brought up a lot is plate solving, and a company called SharpCap makes software that does that. Okay, it takes a couple of different shots near the pole, different places of the pole, and then shows you the difference of where you think that the where the pole is on your mount versus what your image is showing. And so it tells you how to make that adjustment. I guess it does differential adjustments. I have never used it myself, but I would say that it would be a great way to go. But what if you can't see the pole? Neither one of these work for you. Okay?
That's right.
That's right. You can't.
That'll happen more often than you think when you're starting out.
Right. And so so that's that. So what are the advantages of drift alignment? Of course, number one is the drift alignment does not require that you can see the polar region of the sky. It doesn't require specialized software or cameras. And the final alignment also compensates for something called mechanical flexure in your telescope system. All telescopes flex. Big ones flex more than small ones, but it is something that drives some astrophotographers crazy because they think that their system is totally static and nailed down and everything, and they'll still find something where stars are smearing for some reason and they cannot figure it out. A lot of times it's because there's something shifting or bending or slipping. Okay, and so that's the
other source of smeared stars is differential flexure between your auto guiding system and your main system if you have a separate guide scope.
Right, and that's one of the problems of having an auto guiding system. Unless you have a very you can't just use like a viewfinder bracket, okay, and hopefully get away with it unless you have a very tiny guide scope. QHY makes these little auto-guiding telescopes that probably would work okay in a viewfinder bracket, but if you're going to put an ED80 or something 60 millimeter refractor or something like that up there, it needs to be really, really sturdy. So that's that. So let's get into it. So if you're going to do a drift alignment, the first thing to do is to try to polar align your telescope as well as you can. If you can't see the stars in the polar region, you're going to use a compass. You're going to level that tripod best you can, and you're going to adjust the altitude or the latitude adjustment on your mount to as closely as possible match the latitude of your location. Jerry and I were talking about how to get that position in the best way, and I've seen it done where you put the mount at the latitude that's indicated on maybe a GPS sensor or something. And let's say you're on the 32 degree line or 33 degree, whatever. And then you point the telescope at 0 degrees declination, leave the lens cap on it. Now try to visualize this. You've got the telescope aimed straight up, okay, at 0 degrees, and you've got the mount at your latitude. And then what you do is you put a bubble level on top of the lens cap, and you raise or lower the telescope until the bubble level is level. And that gets you really darn close to what your local latitude would be. And so that would be a starting point. Otherwise, what can you do? You can just pop on your viewfinder and put Polaris or the pole stars of the southern hemisphere in the finder scope, and that will be a good rough polar alignment. You want to get this as close as you can to start off with, but
it can still be 3 or 4 degrees off, and you'll see it drift quite a bit, and you'll be able to adjust it initially. Once you start the drift alignment, you'll see it.
That's right. If you're really close, then the drift looks really slow. If you're way off the mark, you're going to see it drift like within 3 or 4 seconds. It's going to start taking off, and you need to make a lot of adjustments. So step 2 is to point the telescope at 0 degrees declination with the tracking system turned on. You want to find a moderately bright star, plus or minus 30 arc minutes in right ascension of the meridian. Now the meridian is going to be this line that is directly overhead, okay? Not exactly straight up. Well, it would be exactly straight up. It's where the zenith and the meridian cross, and so this will put you hopefully into a field of stars that you can see overhead, and you'll just find a nice bright one and defocus it. You'll see in the illustration here that I have a crosshair eyepiece, and I do recommend an illuminated crosshair eyepiece. There are several that are out there. Most of them are around 9 to 12 millimeters in focal length. So if you want to make this more quick work, you'll put a Barlow lens or a focal extender to increase magnification so you can see drift happen quickly, okay? And so the drive is turned on. Jerry was careful to point out to me that you want to have, at least here in the northern hemisphere, and I'm not sure about the southern hemisphere, but I think in the northern hemisphere, you'd like to have your tube assembly on a German equatorial mount on the east side, so that when you're tracking through, pointed straight up, you don't go into a meridian flip, okay? So that's that. The illustration there shows the mount going from east to west, but you can in fact do these alignments on either side of the mount, but meridian flip will probably give you fits. So
right.
It's often recommended to try to get up to 200 magnification or more if you can. Having the star thrown out of focus reduces the effect of scintillation of the star moving around on you, it makes the crosshairs easier to see as well. So let's go to the next slide. So the next thing you're going to do once you have it in this position is you're going to rotate the crosshair so that when you press the north and south buttons on your control box, moving it slowly in declination, this would be probably at guide speed, then you're going to you're going to see the star racing up and down through the eyepiece. You want to rotate the crosshairs so that as you go up and down, the star runs parallel with the crosshair. And that will let you see if it's drifting north or drifting south. Next, after that, if the star drifts north or up, then turn the azimuth knob that makes the star move right in the field, towards the right. If the star drifts south or down, turn the azimuth knob so that the star moves left in the field. If you're using a Newtonian, these adjustments are reversed, obviously, because everything looks different than it does through a Schmidt-Cassegrain or a refractor when we're using a diagonal. And you should also disregard any drift and right ascension, as this relates to small tracking errors, like periodic error. Now, a lot of times when you're training somebody how to do this, you'll just tell the person, look, you'll jump down to like the very bottom here. Note that if the star drifts faster or in the opposite direction, you're turning the knob the wrong way, or you went too far, and you just need to adjust in the opposite direction. You make some slower moves as you start to see the star slow down and drift because you're getting close. And so you'll get a feel for it after you do this a few times. Any comments on that, Jerry?
No, that's right. So you basically, once you start seeing what it looks like when you adjust it, you'll get a feel for how your mount behaves and how far you have to turn the knob to get a small adjustment. And you might want to start out, if you start out real small, you might not see any difference at first. So you might intentionally start out with a large change so that you can understand if that's the right direction, because it always makes things go faster when you can see the change quicker. So if you made the move the wrong direction, then you'll want to see it sooner rather than later, unless you were lucky and got it right on the money, and then you would sit there and wait for it to move at all. But that's generally what I would suggest. It's just the first one or two moves, make them fairly large. I'm not talking about a huge amount. I'm just talking about a tiny, maybe 10% or 10-degree turn on the knob, maybe 5 degrees. And then once you get a feel for it, then you'll understand what you have to do later after that.
And you'll know that you either are making a larger turn on the knob if you see the star drifting in a few seconds versus the star seems to stay stationary for a couple of minutes. Okay, if you're at a couple of minutes, you're getting really close. Okay, so how long should you do this drift alignment test? How long should it not drift? That's often a question that comes up. And I would personally recommend that your drift alignment test lasts longer than the longest single exposure you plan to make. So let's say that you're going to do a 5-minute exposure. I don't know, I'm probably going to recommend that you do a drift test of at least 7 minutes, okay? So that, if you're not having any drift over 7 minutes, you know that you're within the 5-minute window, okay? And the stars are just going to look tighter. Often, too, if you're like one of those, guys that are just really anxious to get started, if you kind of cheat the system a little bit, you might end up with more bloated stars than what you might otherwise have gotten if you'd done this drift alignment correctly. So let's see. Jeff Weiss says, that image confused me. That image.
The one that you're showing now or the previous one?
I don't know. That image confused me. What image, Jeff? Brett Blake says, I had to stop and think about that too. Can we back up 2 screens? Sure, of course. Let's 1, 2. This one. Okay. The telescope with the arrows. Okay, so there's the telescope with the arrows.
I didn't see it change, Scott.
No?
No, not on the Zoom.
Well, let's see. Um, Here, let's do this. One. You're not seeing it. I'm not seeing it change either, and I'm changing it. There we go.
Oh, there it goes. All right.
There we go. There we go. There it is. So, Jeff, I assume this is the image you're talking about. Okay. And the view that I'm showing of the telescope itself is a view of the mount, like if you're at the north end of the mount. Didn't change on Facebook. This one, the single leg looks like it's in the south. Now the single leg, that is actually in the north.
North, that's right. You're facing south there.
Yeah, but of course, if you were, you know, in the southern hemisphere, that leg would be facing south, and then you could disregard the east and west labels that I have right there. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that this is how the telescope looks. Okay, when you are positioning it for the first step, where you're adjusting azimuth. You're looking south across that telescope, Scott. Yes, I'm in the north side looking south. That's right. And did I lose it?
It looks like it, yeah, disconnected or something.
I lost. All right. Well, I can...
Always something.
Are we off the air? I don't think so.
We're still on YouTube. I can see us on YouTube.
Okay. All right. Let me fix this because something has. I was using Skype at the same time. Okay. Can you see me now?
Yep, I can see your face.
Okay. All right. I'm going to let you, Jerry. I'm going to let you talk about the, the network issue.
I think I can share. Well, I've got the old version of the presentation. I could have shared my desktop with the presentation, but I don't think I've got the one you did, the marked up one.
Oh, you have it. That's right.
I'm not sure what changes you made. I've got the one you sent first.
No big changes, really.
All right, let me see if I can bring that up. Give me a minute.
Okay. I had a technical difficulty. Thanks, Dennis. You're muted, Jerry.
I suggest you might want to talk about Star Party for a couple minutes while I'm getting this started.
Okay, well, I will talk about it. We have Global Star Party number 9 tomorrow, and so we are already having people come on board committing to that. And so this will be a Star Party. It'll start tomorrow at 9 p.m. Central. And it runs from, mostly through the northern and southern hemisphere in the United States, through South America, also into Canada. But I imagine that we'll have Gary Palmer, perhaps some visitors from the UK joining us because they love it, and we love it too. Of course, Lily and the Stars will be with us. We have Nova Space Galleries joining us, and I've been after them for a little while, but they're going to show some really cool space art from a featured artist, so I'm excited about that. Let's see. I'm seeing comments here. Tech can be infuriating, Scott. Took me a big chunk of the afternoon figuring out how to highlight the median and equator in stellarium. I still have Hari, which is a miracle. Okay. All right. Richard Grace says, I always shoot off the west side of my mount at home because less light pollution in the east for me. And Tim Meyer says, I could be wrong, but I think there are some still confused on how to align and use the polar scope to do a polar alignment. It took me a while to fully understand using our angle to set the Polaris circle correctly. We can get back into that, Tim. I wrote a BAT file. It's fine, but the alternate connection is the correct way to go. Okay, it sounds like some internal communication there with Wes McDonald. Wolfgang. Still just, anyways. It looks like you guys are excited about the party, Global Star Party, which should be great. And what else do we have going on? I have a special Explore Now show that's going to feature Dr. Stephen J. Edberg, retired JPL scientist, and Dr. Daniel Barth. They are both going to be on this. I think it's Wednesday. I've already put out an announcement for it. But they're going to talk about the importance of hands-on activities in science in the classroom. And so this is something that's very important to parents and teachers and all of us that want to have a more scientific literate group. You're shaking your head, Jerry. What's wrong? And you're muted.
I swear, I'm trying to. I'm looking at your email. I've got it here, but now it won't download it. It thinks it's only 0. It won't save it now. So I don't know what the heck's going on with this PowerPoint.
Let me see if I can.
I don't know if you can send it to me again real quick, but
let's see.
What a pain.
Yeah, well, sometimes it's not, perfect. You guys are going to hear. Let's see. Okay. And let's try to share that screen again. And I think I'm doing it.
Can you do it again?
I think I'm doing it again. So let's see. There's that. Trying to make everything so smooth. And there we go. Okay. We're back live. Okay, so that's good.
Get back to your other slide now.
Right. So we talked about polar, getting a rough polar alignment. We talked about starting off with the first phase of drift alignment, where you're pointing the telescope straight up at 0 degrees declination at the 0 hour angle. Effectively, it looks like 12 o'clock high. Okay, and you have put in a crosshair eyepiece. You have then you practiced finding out which way is north and south by adjusting the north or clicking the north and south buttons, seeing the stars race across your crosshairs. You're going to rotate the crosshairs so that the stars run parallel with a couple of the crosshairs, and they don't move diagonally across. So you'll just rotate the reticle until you see things that are lining up, so that when you move it north and south, you're getting you're getting a proper up and down or north and south movement there.
Hey Scott, you might want to focus on the presentation, make it bigger.
Oh, you mean put it in presentation mode?
Yeah, that and make it this full screen instead of you're showing
That's
my
fine.
screen.
There we go. It's not much bigger. Oh, I see. I see what you're talking about. Here we go. And
like you had it before.
Mm-hmm. How about that? Better?
There it is.
Okay.
I'm gonna be gone for a minute. Just give me 1 minute. I'll be right back.
All right, Jerry. All right. So, anyways, now we get to the part where you're making your adjustments. Okay, and so if you're seeing the star drift north or up, you'll turn the azimuth knob that will make the star move right in the field. And if the star moves south or down, you turn the azimuth knob that makes the star move left in the field. And you know, I know that we've kind of covered this a little bit already, but we're the main point is a lot of people forget. They're out under the dark and they're not sure which way to turn it. So it doesn't matter, okay? If you see the star drifting and you make an adjustment and you see it drifting faster, you know you went the wrong way, okay? Then all you do is you back it back off, check it again, you'll see the star will slow down, and then you sneak up on it. You're making finer and finer adjustments until that star is not drifting any longer. And then once you get to this happy spot, then what you do is you time how long it will stay without drifting. And so you're going to ignore drifts in right ascension, east and west, because that's your drive showing periodic error, okay? So that's the deal on that, you know, when we're doing the azimuth adjustment. But now we need to do the latitude adjustment. And so that's in step 6, and you can point the telescope either west or east, okay, and adjust in the same way. But now you're only making adjustments in latitude, and you know, after a while you'll know which way. You'll just reach down and turn the knob in the correct direction, okay, knowing what is right, okay, or you can read the instructions as you're going along and do it that way. But you know, if you turn it one way and you see the star take off and drifting faster, then you know you went too far and you need to back off in the opposite direction. Every time you make an adjustment, though, you're going to find out that you're going to have to recenter the star and check it again. So that is a necessity. So, you know, if you're making this last adjustment, though, and you find out that you had to make a huge correction, let's say you're degrees out, okay, you need to go back and repeat the whole drift alignment process one more time, because when you make a giant adjustment in azimuth, that's going to affect your latitude setting too. And so you need to go back and tweak it. But this next time, you're going to find it's going to be very fine adjustments, and you should be able to get it in no time at all. Some final tips. I'm going to say that, you know, you don't want to have the mount making all your adjustments and then go and really lock down the mount, okay? If you do that, what's going to happen is you're going to shift the mount so that you're not polar aligned anymore, okay? So I always put it like to half tension, half locked, okay? So that I could still make adjustments. But I never went down and locked it tight, nailed it down afterwards, you know, because again, that bending of the metal and all the things that happen when you really tighten things up will push your polar alignment off. And sometimes it pushes it off a lot. So you need to probably take my advice and do the half locked adjustment. If your telescope's going to be set up in the same place time after time, you go to the same spot in your backyard or at your observing pad or at your astronomy club or something, you can make markers in the ground, okay? So that when you go back out, you just set up your tripod right on the markers, If you don't change the latitude or azimuth settings on your mount, you'll just set it up on there, and you'll find out that sometimes you're going to get lucky. Sometimes you'll just throw the thing down and the thing will be perfectly polar aligned, okay? I've done that several times myself. And that's always a joy when that happens.
At the worst, you'll just spend 5 or 10 minutes tweaking it in like you want.
Tiny adjustments, that's right. So it's just really that first time, all bets are off, of course, if you're traveling cross country and you're going to different latitudes and different places. But how do you mark the ground where you have a tripod? Let's say that you're at a park or in an observing field somewhere and you're set up on grass. What I did is I put large nails into the ground, okay? And I had a little metal detector, and then I could find where the nail was. I'd reach down there and find it and put the tripod tip right on top of the nail, So that's a great way to do that. And I'm talking about big nails that are maybe 6 inches long, so you can really drive it into the ground.
If you put a washer on it too, I guess, to make a little circle.
You could. That's right. That's right. And if you're on an observing pad, you can use you can mark it with chalk, I guess, or maybe a little dab of paint or something. I think
I used paint on my driveway. When I used to set up in my driveway, I put paint on the driveway itself to mark the spot.
Right. So that's basically how you do drift alignment. For any of you guys that want that PowerPoint presentation, I'm going to put it up on explorescientific.com website under downloads, and you can download it. So that'll probably be sometime tomorrow when I'll have that. What's next, Jerry? Are you ready to talk about the network issue?
Yeah, I can. Let me bring that up. I'm going to share my screen.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see here. Did you say Wes was on the was in the chat?
Yeah, he's on the chat.
Okay. So I'm going to bring up the message that he wrote.
Oh, he says, do you want me to come into the video? You could.
Yeah, on Zoom.
Yeah, why don't you send him the login credentials, Jerry?
Okay. Let me see here. I'm on the wrong. It's in the mouse group. So let me. I'm gonna stop my share for a minute, and then I'll send him. So.
Okay. Brett says, thanks, Scott. I have 2 huge trees between me and Polaris. Life was going to be interesting. Once you know how to do this, Brett, it makes a lot of things very simple. And once you learn how to do drift alignments and you got some of this stuff figured out, when we get to daytime polar alignments, a lot more things will start to click for you. Oh, Wes says he's changing computers. And you're muted, Jerry.
A little message pops up telling me I'm muted. I'm going to send him an email.
Yeah, for any of you guys that have questions on drift alignment while you're doing it, if you want, just give me a call. You know, I put up this is my private cell phone number. I'll put it up here. Send me a text first so I know who you are, and then I'll call you back, and I can be your guide.
All right, I just sent Wes an email with the
Cool.
Zoom
Okay.
contact information.
Mm-hmm. All right. So you want to give kind of an intro as to what the problem is?
Yeah, I'm gonna do that. Let me share my screen again. I need to go to the
Wow. Paul Meister says we had ashes from California fires in the Netherlands.
oh no.
That? That's crazy. Jeff says
All right.
many neighbors lost their homes near me. Very sad days in California. Yes, it is.
So this is the email, the message that Wes posted this morning. Wes and I spent probably 2 hours looking at this different things in the configuration to figure out to at least narrow it down. I actually am working on a couple of prototypes of the board with the Wi-Fi module, and ran into this issue myself today, or actually this on Friday. So it was the most recent Windows updates that I think are having the problem. So this is the version I have, Windows 10 home version.
Okay.
Build. And so the build numbers that are these 18363 and 18362 that may have caused the problem. And the issue comes up when you do the SSID, you go and connect to the PMC8 network. It says connected. No, it says secure, no internet secure, which is correct. But if you go to the IP configuration program, if you bring up a command prompt, so let me I'm going to actually share my screen instead of just this program. So I'm going to stop my share real quick and
Okay.
reshare my screen so I get everything. So now, so can you see it again?
Yeah.
So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start a command prompt and show you what you're going to look at. Does that come up okay?
Yep.
All right, so you'll run this program, and I like to do /all, but you don't need to. You just run that, and it lists all the different adapters you have for your networking adapters that run Internet Protocol. And the one you're going to look at is for your wireless LAN adapter, which is this one right here. Okay.
Okay.
Right now it's connected to my home network. Okay, that's why the address is 10.0.0.137. But what happens when you connect up to the PMC8, you should see the IPv4 address of 192.168.47.1, which
Okay.
got here. Let me see if he's got it listed here. This right here. Now your address should be something like 47.11 or 15 or 12 or whatever it is. That's what your PC
should be
address will be.
Okay.
The gateway will be 192.168.47.1. Okay. But instead, what you'll have is this goofy address here where it says 169.254. That's how you know you have the problem.
Okay.
So,
where is this other IP address coming from?
what it is when, this is the root cause of the problem, is when your machine, when you go with the SSID and you connect to the PMC8 mount, there's a DHCP server that runs on the Wi-Fi module on the PMC8 and assigns an address which should be the 192.168
Okay.
address or 47 dot address that gets assigned to your PC. But that doesn't happen, okay, because of this problem. So it just defaults to this 169.254, which is internal Windows default. If it doesn't connect to a network, it just defaults to that. So for some reason, Windows does not accept the DHCP assignment address that's assigned. Looks like Wes is on now.
Yeah, he's on.
So I don't know if you want to chime in, Wes? Do you want me to go on?
You're muted, Wes.
Heck, I did. Oh, yeah, you fixed me, didn't you? Am I good?
Yes.
Okay, beautiful. You had muted me. I thought I hadn't. All right, so Jerry, everything you said here in this email is all correct, except for the minor detail that Jeff Weiss. By the way, hat tip to Doug Walker, I think.
Yeah.
And Jeff Weiss. I mean, these guys have helped a lot today. But Jeff pointed out after he got this email, he says, well, why don't we use the alternate? Now, Jerry and I had tried to use the alternate IP address setting, which is in that whole business.
Yeah, I can show that on the screen. Let me do that real quick.
Yeah. And it didn't work for us. But after Jeff said that, and after I got done spending all day writing a bat file with a lot of help from Doug, that was switches back and forth, so you didn't have to do this manually anymore. I went and tried the alternate, and dang if it didn't work just great.
Oh, really? It works good? Okay, good.
It worked just great. I mean, it worked the way it ought to.
Cool.
So, okay.
So we do have this issue. It changed. Basically, the way Windows hooks up got fiddled and somewhere in one of the releases, and it did blow us up in terms of being able to hook up to the PMC8, the RM.
Right, so one of the steps that I'm doing right now are in this email to tell you to go to the network configuration and go to the properties of and then you click on Internet Protocol v4, and this is where you're talking about right here, the alternate configuration window.
Right.
The user configured, and it lets you set
yeah, and use user configured, and now set the things that we talked about. So you want the alternate configuration. No, leave that the way it is. Now go to alternate configuration. Yeah, that's right. No, you're correct, Jerry. Make that obtain DNS server automatically.
This one too? Okay.
And go up to alternate.
So now I'm going to use
user configured, and you want that, you want that, you want that, and now your DNS server, you can go on ahead and put. You can put anything you want in there, I'm pretty sure, because you're not going to get out from this guy, but you might as well try it. No, well, I put in my actual DNS server address. For me,
well, remember when I set it up on the Exos 100 that it assigned the default gateway, the DNS, to all the same address to this 47.1, the PMC8 box. Yeah,
but I'm just telling you how it works right now on my machine.
Yeah.
And I have that actually set to a valid DNS server. Then
okay.
I have it set to my DNS server on my of my Spectrum. Now I'm not sure it's even needed. I think it might not be needed. I need to dot the I and cross the T on that one. Because you see, when you're connected to the PMC8 network, which will be the 47.1, you don't have any ability to go out. It doesn't.
Right. Right.
So I don't think you need anything there, and everything will be fine.
Okay. So what does this allow you to do? Did you test this? Does it allow you to connect both to the PMC8 and the internet at the same time?
What I tested was it allowed me to flip back and forth from the PMC8 in another network and it would smoothly connect to the other network and give me internet access.
I see. So when you bring up the SSID, like down here.
Yes.
Just the PMC8 turned on right now, but so it would do my network and the PMC8 network, and you just select whichever one, and it does it.
It does it, and it would work smoothly and connect to the internet when you weren't on the PMC8.
Okay.
It might be the
Cool.
case, which I didn't even try, was, will it connect to the network? Because I put in valid network DNSs. But see, the gateway, I did leave the gateway as 47.1. And my guess is it just can't get out of there. You know, that gateway doesn't know how to get to the internet. 47.1.
Right, right.
So that's why I'm saying it probably doesn't matter. This stuff here will work, but it's not needed anymore, I don't think. And I hadn't deprecated it with an email to anybody. You caught me a little short by doing it on today's show. I didn't know you were going to go over it.
Well, I thought about, typically Scott asks me what's going on in the forum, and I come up with the latest thing I've been messing with. So
A situation that we're working on, we should talk about it. So
Yeah. And I think people should understand this has been developing pretty rapidly over the last couple of days. And finally, today, Jerry and I have dug into it pretty hard. And basically, for me, it's been an all-day affair. I mean, I haven't stopped, including this conversation. I haven't stopped since Jerry and I began talking today at around 9 or 8:30 or whenever it was. And
thank you, Wes. Thank you.
it's all good. It's no problem. But the thing is, it's just developing. So we know we got the answer now, holding it in our hands.
Yeah.
There's an I and a T needs to be dotted and crossed.
Right.
And I'm pretty sure it's going to be just fine again. And we'll be able to work just great with the latest version of Windows.
So once we have a solution, then is this something that will we do an update in Configuration Manager, or what are we doing?
Well, that's a good question, Jerry. I mean, we have to have this thing set up. Now, I believe, based on what I worked with Doug today on, I think I could do a bat file that would set this alternate up just fine for us manually. Just run the bat file and bingo, it would be in place. So you wouldn't have to be,
Right.
fooling around with your Windows settings and your network settings if that wasn't something you were comfortable doing. It would do it.
But again, I think I still consider this a workaround. The problem is, the root cause of the problem is that something's changed in Windows where it does no longer recognize the DHCP settings sent by the microchip RN131 module.
Whoops.
Dogs are barking. So it doesn't recognize that anymore, and I don't know why, but that's based on this last change.
Well, operating systems certainly from Windows, in the years that I worked with AutoStar and some of the other systems, it's just a forever ongoing kind of thing, where you're always, because the guys at Microsoft don't call us and say, hey, we're making this change.
Well, we've all experienced the issue with ASCOM 6.5, which is essentially an operating system change.
Yeah.
That messes up. And of course, the
Yeah.
astronomy community, as you said, have been complaining bitterly all along about how the new Windows releases broke their old software.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
And that goes all the way back to Windows XP and forward.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So everybody that's listening to this, go on the forum and look at this message, I guess, thread that's, let me see what it's called again. Basically, it's called Exos2 not connecting to Windows via Wi-Fi. So if you type in on the search tool "not connecting Wi-Fi," you should be able to find it.
And it's in mounts, Jerry.
What's that?
It's in the mounts.
It's in the
subgroup.
mounts. It's in the mounts form. So you have to be a member of the mounts subgroup.
Right. I didn't put it in main.
Right.
Jeff Wise was agreeing with you guys that no network configuration changes were necessary. Brett Blake says Jerry needs a social secretary. What is that?
Social secretary.
If he gets one, I want one.
I want one to block people from talking to me so I can get some work done during the day.
That'd be
Okay.
a
So
social
Wade Prunty
media.
says, I'm a network engineer. Where can I get a hold of that document they were showing? I'd like to read through it. Yeah.
Which document do you think he means there? The email?
This is a forum message. Is that what you're talking about?
I don't know.
Or the microchip? Is it the microchip manual?
He's not saying. He says the document
Maybe he'll reply.
we're showing. Maybe he's.
Yeah.
Tim Myers says this does not affect your connection if you're using serial connection, right?
Oh,
That's right.
Yeah. So it's just a Wi-Fi thing.
well, Tim, what it does do though is if you have a Windows box with Windows 10 version, at least the newest one anyhow, you won't be able to connect to the Wi-Fi if you're in Wi-Fi mode with the configuration manager to change it to serial mode. But if you're in serial mode, you're good to go until you want to change it back, and then this would come into play.
I see.
Uh-huh.
And that's what got Marco, and that's what got us all started on this.
With the instructions. Was there an email with instructions that you sent out, Jerry?
Yeah, it's in the forum. It's a forum message. So let me share my screen again. And I'll show the forum message and the message number.
Okay.
So it's in the mounts subgroup. All right.
Yep.
And it's message number 1187. So let me send a link on, you can send it to the group. I'll send it to the Zoom chat and you can paste it
Okay.
into the Zoom or into the rest of the stuff.
Cool comment behind you there, Wes.
Oh, thanks. Yeah, what's that one we just had? That was that one.
NeoWise.
NeoWise, whatever. It's one of the NeoWise, not the latest one. Yeah.
Okay.
All right, so the link is there in the chat. You see it?
Link. I'm sharing the link. This gentleman says, all of my gear is new since I just got into the hobby, but I haven't had any of the issues with Windows. Isn't that weird?
Yeah. That's Windows for you.
That's weird.
Yeah, it seems like, and I just didn't run into it till last week. Because mine was working fine too all this time until just last week.
Chuck now says, I had that today with this email, with these email connection to switch from Wi-Fi. Failed and went to unknown, waited a sec, clicked switch to serial again, and it switched. I have the latest Windows installed. I'll check IP settings tomorrow.
Lord. Maybe there's yet another thing that corrected the problem they introduced somewhere along the line.
Like they did. You know, Windows does updates all the time.
Right.
All the time. So I don't know. I think I just had a Windows update on my system. So
yeah, I rolled back my driver and that didn't fix it. My Wi-Fi driver, and Marco put the newest Wi-Fi driver for his AC, whatever, 82, whatever. And that was out just a few days ago, and that cotton picking thing didn't fix it either on his box. But his box will not connect Wi-Fi
at all.
And it's a relatively new. I think he said the computer is, a month old or virtually new.
Yeah. I'm getting a power supply for this NUC that I got for my system. So, and it's got one. And so we'll see if the problem exists on this one. So.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see.
I would say if everybody that has the issue could find out what their Windows version is and post it. And if anyone doesn't have the issue, I'd like to see their Windows version posted too, so we can maybe get a notion of when this thing gave up, because it's 18.363 is given up, right, Jerry?
Yeah, 18.363, and you listed 18.362. Did you try that? I thought
yes,
that one didn't. That one failed also.
That one failed also, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was that was that. So I think numbers smaller than that, somewhere in all that range, we're going to get one that works again. And if we're at 18,364 or 365 miraculously now, then we might conclude, and it's working. We might, without change, we might conclude that they fixed it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, do they do incremental fixes like that, except on their 0 day? You know, the Tuesday.
I don't know. I thought they always did them. They rolled things out like once a month or something. However often they do it, on Tuesdays or something.
Right.
Brett Blake says he had 4 Windows updates almost 3 hours ago. Blue screen.
Ouch. Oh man.
I pray for like an all Linux world, you know, so Unix, Linux, something like that.
Something.
But
Macs work every time.
That's what I run.
Yeah.
Occasionally I will overtax my Mac, you know, but it just kind of hangs a little bit, you know. I don't get blue screens. Well, okay. Well, Wes, thanks for popping in and giving us that update. And, you know, I'm sure we'll get to the bottom of it. And when we do, we'll update everyone. So, and if you have any issues at all, if you get onto the forum and chime in with which Windows version that you have, they'll help Wes and Jerry pin this down. So,
right. And a final thought from me will be that I'm going to go and see if those settings are needed in the alternate relative to the DNS server.
Okay.
And then pretty much, Jerry, I'll hold off on, once I know the answer to that, I'll hold off, and then you and I can work tomorrow briefly, and maybe then I'll send out an email to update everybody.
Okay.
It seems you work, because I'm interested in having it work on your machine before I put it out to anybody else.
Right.
And I actually have one more to test it on myself as well. So that would be 3 different machines. Okay.
Very
All right, great. Thanks, Wes.
All
right,
Thanks for
very
all
good.
your help.
I'm gonna say goodbye.
Okay.
Take care. Bye-bye.
So long.
So long.
Bye.
All right. So I guess the last thing I really wanted to talk about was Venus. And, you know, we talked about it a little.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I think this is really startling news. So I don't know if you guys saw the post that I put out on my personal Facebook page, but it comes from, let me see if I can find it for you. Let's see. I'll find it for you. Here it is. This is from Cardiff University. You know, this is where Professor Jane Greaves, who made the announcement and was, apparently she was alone when when she made the discovery. So that was kind of interesting too. Just an interesting discovery story overall. But that is the link. Of course, it's in lots of different news channels right now, but really interesting time to be involved in astronomy. And so
I found an article from MIT about it. I'm going to share my desktop real quick.
Okay.
Share the article, so just to show people. You see that?
yeah.
So astronomers may have found a signature of life on Venus. Evidence indicates phosphine, a gas associated with living organisms, is present in the habitable region of Venus's atmosphere. So I guess that's something to talk about, Scott. That people don't understand there's a habitable region in the atmosphere.
Right. Well, you know, it's certainly the surface of Venus is scorching. You know, if they find that there's life in the habitable zone of the atmosphere, you know, even if you think of perhaps the evolution of Earth and maybe one day it becomes like Venus, God forbid, but if it becomes that way, does it mean the end of life? And it may be no. I mean, Venus is as inhospitable as it gets, okay? And so be very, very, very interesting to know more about that. But I was thinking of trying to invite the scientist onto our show, but I imagine she's getting bombarded right now with news media hitting her up with this. We might wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Try, but I think it's fascinating, and there's always surprises here in our solar system. So
that's like on just to bring up some science fiction, like in Star Wars, the Cloud City.
Right.
You can see Cloud Cities in the habitable zone of Venus.
That will once again blow away everybody's notion about what life is and where life can exist. The life as we know it term will once again be thrown into the machine to figure it back out again. So life on Venus is nothing new. Women are from there, right? I'm pretty sure I read that somewhere. Yeah, that was in Men from Mars.
Men from Mars.
Venus or something like that. I never figured that one out. Any other comments here? Jeff Weiss says Wes did a great job on this. Thank you very much.
That's the power of the community.
That's true. That's true. Tim Meyer says Scope Computer's running okay. Paul Maester said, I'll first have to get my PMC-8 back. That is really tough. Paul's PMC-8 is either lost or something in shipping. So.
Oh, really? It got lost.
That sucks. Mike Wiesner says, so glad I use Macs. Yeah. DIY Astro says, my Exos 2 PMC-8 arrived literally today, so I'm really glad I found this and got the heads up about the issue. Yeah, let us know if you run into any issues at all.
Yeah, I'm curious to see if it has that problem right off the bat for you with your computer, and let us know what your computer version, operating system version is.
Wolfgang says he's having problems with guiding now. Before it wouldn't find the target. Now apparently it does that, but it doesn't guide well. So we'll have to.
There's lots of forum threads about guiding.
Yep.
And PhD2, and I would suggest or encourage people to go to the wider PhD2 forums, where there's a lot more experience also there than what's just on our small group.
Jeff is commenting about Venus. He says Venus's rain is 100 times stronger than the strongest sulfuric acid on Earth. Oh my God. Maybe that's the reason why the Russian spacecraft just stopped working.
The Venera. That thing, remember what that thing looked like? It looked like a battle tank or some kind of tank.
It had to be.
Like bullet, really thick steel or whatever they used.
Things and.
You imagine it's all melted down now or all disintegrated because of the acid rain.
Oh, yeah. It'd be really interesting to see it, any of the spacecraft that landed in there, I would like to see. Scott, you need a person who looks at the comments during the show. Well, that's a good idea.
It's called a producer.
I don't have that person right now.
It's called a producer.
I do it all.
Yeah.
Celtic Raven says, if you're looking for a topic, I just got my glass white light solar filter. Any advice for the first time you point your telescope at the sun? Yes. Take your viewfinder off your scope, okay? I've seen people just out of force of habit, when they put the solar filter on there, go and look through the finder, okay?
Yeah, that's bad.
Start to anyways, and like pull back, like, well, I know I'm not supposed to do that, so I would also recommend that you put some tape on that white light solar filter too, just in case somebody goes up there and hits your telescope or anything. Man, you just have no time to get away from the, if you're observing through your scope and somehow that white light filter comes off, you need to.
I use the blue painter's tape. I'll wrap it around there. That's what I did.
I do too.
So it's very noticeable.
Right. He says, oh, good point. Ouch. I was thinking about burning your skull when you mentioned it. Yeah. We actually had, during the last total eclipse, we had an amateur astronomer call customer service and ask, this was a seasoned amateur astronomer, okay? And they asked if they could use our solar filter eclipse glasses to look through the eyepiece of their telescope.
I remember you made a video. You made a video with that.
I made a video on that. That video, I don't know how many views it's got. It's
probably got 1 million views.
It's got a lot of views.
That was the most popular video you ever made.
I think it is. Eclipse. It's still up there.
You need to send out a link to that so people can see.
Let me see if I can find it. 105,000 views. Why you should not use eclipse glasses to look through telescopes or binos. That's what it's called. I'll get this for you guys. It is.
Yeah, that's pretty nasty.
Obvious, but we actually have, having somebody go through that, it just so alarmed me.
Yeah, that's a scary question when somebody comes up and thinks that that's maybe possible.
Right. There it is. Here we go. I'll just put it in the link here. Well, with that, I think that we're finished with today. We've got Star Party tomorrow. As I mentioned, in the Stars will be with us.
I got MSRO up and running.
Oh, the MSRO's up.
And it's going to be clear sky tomorrow, so I should be able to demonstrate.
Good. Awesome. Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to it. I know Rodrigo Zeleta from Chile is going to be with us. I'm sure Caesar will be joining us again, and we'll have a good group. So tune in and win some prizes. And we will see you. And as Jack Horkheimer always says, keep looking up. And we will, I'll call it a night here. So
goodbye.
you.